Hello and welcome to Vejer de la Frontera, the home of the 28th Sunshine Tour. With 7 weeks of competition in 2022, offering 7 4-star level qualifying Grand Prix for the World Championships, over 40 world ranking classes and over €2 million in prize money, it's a destination event for many of the world's best at the beginning of each season. But this huge show-grounded circuit also allows the development of the equine superstars of the future with a popular Development International Young Horse Series. The lure of the circuit is, of course, the weather, and on this final weekend, we couldn't really be set fairer for competition in the David Broom Arena. It's the finale of the Tour, and the focus is on who will be the winner of the Longines Grand Prix final. Qualification for the final is based on Grand Prix results over the preceding 6 weeks of competition. This 4-star Longines ranking class has a course set by world-renowned Italian designer Giuliano Vezzani. The specification is between metre 55 and metre 60. The first round time allowed is 81 seconds, and there's €148,000 in the prize fund. Well, no clears to hand as we join the action with Felipe Guinato. Felipe with Big Star by Cannon. Just checking out the open water in the middle of the course. Just been used on and off during the circuit, but always in the final. Felipe, 3 times the Grand Prix winner here at Vejer in the past. Brazilian rider has taken a lot of Grand Prix wins in Portugal, including at the Nations Cup show at Lisbon and at Vila Moura. Just coming up to 30 of our 50 seen, and Giuliano hasn't had anyone manage to find a way to a clear around his course just yet. And even having slightly softened up the wall for this final in a way by putting the rails over it, it comes down for Felipe. But, you know, there's a few faults coming in there as riders consider the approach, the effort they need down to the open water, maybe to just encourage their horses forward to it. And we know that was in Felipe's mind because he showed his horse that fence before he started his round. Silver Longines poles, it's not the brightest of Sunshine Tour days here, but those silver Longines poles have been very, very influential on previous Sundays when the sun has really been out. Triple bar here sets them up for the final line. And jumping the last comfortably inside the time, but it is with 4 faults for Felipe Guinato. Good enough for third at the moment, but still waiting for that first clear round. Felipe having the Andalucía rail over the wall just on the way to the open water down at number 4. Here we see it. Not the widest of poles, they wouldn't be terribly heavy, but you see a similar question there with the light gate. And the horse jumps it very clean indeed. Big Star by Cannon. As we've had on a couple of other weekends, pretty strong wins here across the David Broom Arena for this Longines Grand Prix final. A rider who's had a very good tour, multiple wins here, especially with his metre 45 horse, Kevin Gonzalez de Zarate Fernandez. A Nations Cup rider for Spain in Portugal at Vila Moura in the winter of 2020. There's a class winner with this horse, Contargos Rouge, here last week. He rode a very, very tight turn in there. The horse then just took a little bit of a squirm in the air. But Kevin just sat very quiet, rode on down to the water on the spot he was on, stays clear. And he has the little gate, as it were, down at the end of that line. 2 in quick succession now for Kevin Zarate. Targos Rouge will have one down coming out of the triple combination as well. So sitting on 12, 16. There is just this last line to go, but this is a big score that will keep them well down the order, even without a clear at the moment. 16 is going to be too far away from the pointy end of the action. And you see there's really no challenge from the time here. 77 seconds for Kevin Gonzalez de Zarate Fernandez, and Targos Rouge inside that 81 seconds time allowed. Sits down in 20th at the moment, but with some 20 or so riders still to go. We will see that go further down the order, I'm sure. Just flicks it ever so quietly behind, catches the next one immediately after in front though. Dermot Lennon's our next to go, the former individual world champion for Ireland. He's been a winning Nations Cup rider, a championship medalist for Ireland. Dermot with L'Esprit Hero. Dermot, who's had several class podiums on the Sunshine Tour so far. This is his second Big Tour Grand Prix, having qualified through earlier in the season for a place here in the final. And Dermot actually here with a lot of horses and has had a very, very good tour. Half a dozen or more class wins with various horses here in 2022. Going to be another one to just have the Andalucía rail down. So again, no clear rounds. We've seen more than 30 competitors in this first round of competition. And not unusually, Dermot, having had one, picks up another one quite quickly afterwards. Just going through that pale brown-pink doublet 6, has the rail preceding the triple combination down, pulls away from the triple, reaches forward, pets the horse, and I think that is going to be all we'll see of Dermot Lennon and L'Esprit Hero, retiring on course and calling it a day. And this is the first fence they have down, and it does just seem that the horses are, you know, maybe not being as clever in their minds as changing over that fence. They're coming down, they're looking through their left shoulder. They need to then be looking through their right shoulder on the slightly curving approach down to the open water at number 5. And it just seems like horses are being taken by surprise by that need to change in the air, which is so unusual for them. I mean, that's their bread and butter, really. Next to go, Jana Vargas. Jana with her own Ashford Farm and Jos Lansing's Limbridge by Limbus. This horse a former Derek Heron's ride. And Jana and Limbridge won the Budapest World Cup qualifier last year. Jana, who was out jumping in Mexico, was a Grand Prix winner at the 2-star level on the Major League Show Jumping Tour at La Silla in Mexico. Rode this horse at the EEF, the European Equestrian Federation Nations Cup finals last year. And actually, Jana's other claim to fame, perhaps, is that she rode Cluny. Martin Fuchs's Cluny is a young horse at Lanarken back in the day. Not too many problems coming in at our open water. Just looked to have maybe stalled a moment in front of that double. The horse picked up and cleared it. It's a very nice spot then over the skinny on the rollback at 7. Excellent spot all the way through that line, including the triple combination. And we're looking at our first clear round. She comes to the final line, triple bar. 4, leaves her a long way off the Suzuki, and it goes, unfortunately. 78.25, 4 faults for Jana Vargas. Just a little shake of the head there. She goes into 4th, just behind Felipe Guinato and Big Star, who sit 3rd as things currently stand. An enormous shame to have had that fence on the way home. This Suzuki fence, our sponsors of last week's Large Tour Grand Prix, unfortunately counts against Jana. She sits fourth at the moment. Lucas Porter next. Lucas, who jumped in the Nations Cup here at Vejer last year. Lucas, who we've seen with Sea Hunter in this series. This Nations Cup horse, a four-star Grand Prix runner-up. He rides Hope Street by Casal today. Hope Street was Lucas's horse for several of the Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix, and they won a Grand Prix together at Riesenbeck, the home of the European Championships in Germany last autumn as well. Hope Street just took a little bit of a last-minute duck through the head and neck, and look at that open water. They got away with that. They made the distance across it, but then they have the very next fence down, the front rail off the Oxer. He lands quite bold into that distance, and Lucas just sits up and balances for the triple combination, the right choice. So just the final line to go. Now he pushes down to the Suzuki. So Jana Vargas maybe just be a shade further off that. Nicely done, going to be inside the time allowed. 4 faults in 80.67, just that one down unfortunately, but Lucas is pleased enough with that, the way this class has gone. You can see he's still there inside the top 10. And there's not exactly a huge amount of 4 faulters, so Lucas could still end up with a decent little bit of money and valuable Longines World Ranking points as a result of that. But pleasing to see this young rider pleased with his horse, even without the most valuable of clear rounds, but really understanding the way this class has broken down. The next to go, man born in the Isle of Man, been a Nations Cup rider at the very top level for Great Britain and riding for Canada since 2018, when he's also represented Canada at the highest of levels, the Ball Nations Cup, the Nations Cup finals in Barcelona last season. Tim Wilkes of Canada with Diamantella VGZ by Diamante Semii. This combination were well placed in last week's Grand Prix. And they've had a jump-off class win and jump-off class podium during the season. It's been quite interesting. We've had excellent designers coming week after week here when you watch the series of Grand Prix, but the designers do seem to shuffle the deck as well. I mean, Uliano here is really making his impact with, you know, 34, 35 riders seen, no clears, including here, unfortunately, for Tim, as he's also going to have that pale fence down after the open water and the gate too. This is just turning into a big score, unfortunately. Tim, you see him there just taking the half faults and balancing, coming into the triple combination. Just going to have the last part down as well. Final line on 16, as we said, this will be relatively far down the order, but also quite a young horse. Takes the Suzuki as well. Time's pretty good, 76.18, but it is with 5 down. 20 jumping faults for Canadian rider Tim Wilkes and Diamantella VGZ. So this is where it started to go wrong for Tim. He'd been clear to this point, including over the open water, but then rail after rail, unfortunately, for this relatively young horse and Tim Wilkes of Canada. No clears yet in the Longines Grand Prix final. Welcome back to the Longines Grand Prix final here of the 2022 Sunshine Tour. Aymeric Georges is next up for France. We still seek our first clear round. Aymeric with Diesel GP de Bois Madame. Aymeric, a World Cup qualifier winner in Morocco a few seasons ago at Rabat. He's actually contested nearly every Grand Prix here at the Sunshine Tour this season. The Nations Cup rider for France, and also ridden to the very top level in the sport of eventing, having ridden at the Le Moulin horse trials in Germany a few seasons ago. This horse, Diesel GP, previously with Marlon Modulo Zanatelli. Just picks off the first few fences of this Juliana Vezzani track. You can see how they're all just having to handrail that water tray on their way back to the Andalucía wall with the rails over. The open water. The double after, which has been pretty influential. The last 10 or so horses. It's not the double, it's the gate just after that catches out Aymeric Georges, so we still have no clear rounds. Aymeric is our 35th to jump. Horse just takes a real duck to the left there, going into the Longines triple combination. You see, we were talking earlier on about how these silver poles can really glow in the sunshine. It's just become a little bit darker here as the afternoon has gone on at Veher. You see, they're all just having to make a real decision about how they go down from that triple bar to the Suzuki, and it's catching more than a few out, Aymeric being the latest of them. 12 on the Table A fault side of the fence, inside the 81 seconds time allowed. Aymeric Georges and Diesel GP de Bois Madame go 18th at the moment. So still expect those bigger scores to be pushed well outside the top 20 as we get there. There's some big names still to come here. Marie Longham, Echo de Verton next to go. This has been an excellent horse for Marie, taking her to the European Championships, Winter World Cup qualifiers and last year's Nations Cup finals. Combination with double clear in the big top-level Nations Cup at Sopot in Poland last year. Echo de Verton by Vagabond de la Pomme. That Equine America. Again, we're not seeing a very consistent choice from the riders about their roll back to that Andalucía. They're all just finding a route that suits their horse, and actually with the 81 seconds time allowed, Juliana's kind of given them the option to ride what suits their horse rather than super tying them down to his measured or his predicted line. This will be our first meter 60 Grand Prix of the season. He's kind of traded off then a second or two on the time allowed to account for the horses stepping up. A bit of a casual rail, sadly, coming through the triple combination line from a combination that had been otherwise tackling this course very well. And clear out over the last, decent time, 75.89 with 4 faults. And that goes into third place, one of the best ranked riders we've seen so far, Marie Valda Longham and Echo de Verton. But still, no clear rounds here at Veher de la Frontière in the Longines Grand Prix final. So Marie into that third place behind British pair James Wilson and Holly Smith. Holly Smith, who's been on the podium with several of our Grand Prix this season with Fruselli, still sits second at the moment. Nobody coming home with time faults. would be the 4 faults. I mean, at the moment, those 4 faults would be jumping off if we don't get a clear round. But in reality, James Wilson, Holly Smith, Marie Longham, you expect that to be the ranking of those 3. Duarte Seabra. Duarte, who's evented to a very high level. He's been a World Championship level rider in eventing for Portugal. And the first rider of many top eventers through the Fernhill program, including Philip Dutton's championship horse Z. He was also one of the first riders of Cian O'Connor's Olympic show jumper Kilkenny. Duarte and this horse have been top 5 and top 10 in Grand Prix at Villamora. And actually this horse has come the other way. It was previously campaigned at the international level by Ireland's Cian O'Connor. So Duarte Seabra and Dourados by Diarado. Clear just lets the horse drift a little bit left on the approach, and they just don't get a great jump in, and they were in a lot of trouble coming out. Duarte's still there just looking for his right stirrup. He doesn't have it coming over the gate. Picks it up now, but he'll be disappointed by that 4 faults. And now the horse has really just slammed the brakes on. He's not prepared to go down the line towards the triple at all. So that'll be classed as a circle, a refusal on the table A faults. Says that maybe he was just going up into the teeth of the wind there across the David Broom ring to that water tray with the butterflies. There's the back rail out coming out of the triple combination, the final part as well. So 2 down and 1 disobedience on course, and starting to tick over into time as well because of the delay on his progression. So he completes his round, but it's going to be 29 penalties on course for Duarte Seabra. Duarte and Dourados for Portugal. 29 goes into 29th. Yeah, I think, again, we didn't get to see it in the replay, but a little bit of that was to do with the approach, where the horse just fell a little bit through the left shoulder on the approach up to that pale pink double after the open water. Christian Hess is our next. Christian with Camilla Stundman's Untouched by Eurico. Combination with the winners of a pair of classes at Wiener Neustadt in Austria last summer. Christian has been a Grand Prix winner at Neumünster in the Holstenhallen, where he has previously worked for the Holsteiner Verband. He was the work rider at Otto Becker's. And Maximilian Vector, who we've seen jumping in these big Grand Prix for Poland, has been a rider based with and training with Christian in the past. Christian has been here at the Sunshine Tour with a few horses. He's been a very consistent Grand Prix qualifier over the season and picked up his place for the final as well. Now, a rare one to pick up an actual fault at the open water. He puts a clearly palpable toe down in the water, an easy job for the water jump judge. He actually also has the double down. In the main, that water jump has been contributing to perhaps the rail after it, that double. That was Juliana Vezzani there we saw in the ring just beside the butterfly fence a moment ago, keeping an eye on things as they go. Still wondering if he's going to see a clear round. There's plenty that have come home with just the single rail. I mean, it's just a little bit of bad luck attracting and affecting some of the riders. 8 faults and 76 for Christian Hess, and On Touch goes just outside our current top 10. As I say, an easy enough job for the water jump judge. He's going to have the fence after down as well, which is a slightly more frequent occurrence. But just recently, they've been getting that last line very right. We saw a real spate of riders have to make a big adjustment to their horse over the triple bar and then end up with the Suzuki down. Henk van der Pol next to go. Henk with Caen de Clarence by Balabé de Rouet. Henke, two-time World Cup finalist for the Netherlands, has been jumping with us here the whole series, including the pre-Sunshine Tour. And he's going to have that very, very early rail down. Henke, career winner of 5-star Nations Cup Grand Prix at Gijón, the 5-star Grand Prix at La Coruña as well. Has been a Grand Prix winner here at Vejer before. But actually, this horse he's only been riding since February. He's used his qualification for the final to take this horse through. He is going to have broken the tape there at the water as well. You can see him on 8 faults, and I think he knew that the horse didn't give him a big enough jump over the water, so he would be on 8, and he elects to call it a day. The high winds continue here across the Vejer showground, whilst we await our first clear round. I mean, at the moment we don't have anyone sitting in those best places on a single time fault 2 or 3 time faults. It's 4 faults, so we do have a quality of 4 faults at the moment. At the moment we're still in our minds ranking them. We've got James Wilson and Holly Smith as our best 2. We've got Norwegian rider Marie Valdar Longum sitting as our 3rd best 4 faulter at the moment. And here is another of our British contenders. This is William Fletcher, William with Valento. We saw William in Grand Prix action here at the Sunshine Tour. Actually, week 6 was the first Grand Prix at the Sunshine Tour for this combination. William, who jumped some good Grand Prix in the UK last year. It's an increasing number of international Grand Prix in the UK, the likes of Chard and Wellington, and then also the International Winter Series at Keysore in Bedfordshire. William just amps it up a little bit to the water, but what they have to do then is just sit back down on the horse's back, steady the ship on the way up to that pale pink double. Doesn't quite work out for him either, so again, we are on 4 faults. Question is, time-wise, could he overtake James Wilson or Holly Smith or Marie Longham for a place on perhaps the eventual podium? But with the 8 faults now, that becomes somewhat academic. Late falling pole there at the bridge too. Just heard it clunk down into the water tray. It's a good spot there over the Suzuki. And he's actually just not going to put that score on the horse's record, having jumped well over the Suzuki, and I think it's quite sensible to have gone and ridden that question. Is he going to come back? He is, my apologies. I thought perhaps he had just wanted to test the horse, particularly over the triple bar to the Suzuki that hadn't ridden well for a lot of people. He just wanted to test the horse's rideability and adjustability. But he does come back and jump the last. But it's going to be overall a top 30 spot for William Fletcher on that big old score of faults and time in this first round of the Longines Grand Prix final. Well, plenty on 4 faults who might be coming back for a jump off. We keep seeking our first clear here in the Longines Grand Prix final. Welcome back to the Longines Grand Prix final here at the Sunshine Tour at Vejer de la Frontera. So far, no clear rounds over Uliana Vezzani's track. We're getting down to the final 10 or so to compete. Welcome forward Spanish Olympian Eduardo Alvarez Aznar with Bentley de Sury. This is Edu's horse for the 5-star Grand Prix at Al Shakab in Doha, Qatar just recently. Edu, who's picked up several Longines Global Champions Tour Grand Prix podiums. He's been a winner on the European World Cup circuit at Zurich. And ridden plenty of major championships, World Games and Europeans for Spain over his career as well. Edu and Bentley jumped clear in the first round of a jump-off class here earlier this week to set up for this Grand Prix, to just get a feel for Uliana Vezzani's designing and the way he was going to use this David Broome arena. A couple who we'll see have done that. And that's another one, just going to catch behind the front rail of that Oxer after the open water. So on 4 faults, our fastest 4 faults remains James Wilson of Great Britain, but at the moment those 4 faulters would be coming back to jump off as they're in equality of faults. The best score anyone has achieved over this course is 4. We haven't seen anyone jump clear with time. The time allowed of 81 seconds has been looking relatively comfortable, and we just have the bridge towards the end of the course down for Edu as well. Does well not to have the Suzuki after Bentley just took that little wiggle on the way down, and much more of a wiggle here going into the last. A real surprise for a horse of this experience, because what is the difference between a 4-star and a 5-star meter 60? I mean, you can have a meter 60 Grand Prix at 3-star, where 2 of the verticals will be meter 60, but it's about the relationship between the jumps, and that's what makes the difference to 5-star. Edu and Bentley won't take on that last fence a second time. They'll elect to retire. That was the unlucky first rail. I think he was a bit more plumb caught out at the bridge after the triple combination, but the horse, when you think about it, he had that wiggle going down to the Suzuki, the second last, so maybe there was just something coming that Edu could feel on his way to the last. Ellen Whittaker's our next to go. Ellen with Space Cake by Stackatol out of a Cannon mare. Career winner of the Horse of the Year Show Grand Prix, European Championship level rider and medalist for Great Britain. Ellen has already had a Grand Prix win here early in the Sunshine Tour. And this is the 3rd Grand Prix for Space Cake. Actually, they've had a run of 4 faults, keeping them out of jump-offs. Might be today be the day for their luck to turn and give us our first clear. Gets behind the horse a little bit up to the water, but then have they got everything back together here now for this double? Yeah, the first in a while to just leave that all standing. But this line that starts over the Andalucía wall kind of ends there. That whole serpentine, including the open water, those 4 efforts, or 5 efforts, 4 numbered obstacles, are a question as a group as well as individually. It's the triple, unfortunately, that is going to catch Ellen out. The first part of it down the A element. Just lays a toe on the bridge, but it stays in place. 3 to go to come home on 4 faults. And 4 it will be, just the first part of the Longines triple down in 75.95. 4 faults for Ellen Whittaker. And that is going to go into 4th place, just behind Norwegian rider Marie Valda Longum and Echo de Verton in terms of the time of our 4 faulters. But at the moment, in reality, equal first, alongside, as I say, Marie Longum, James Wilson, Holly Smith. Plenty of 4 faulters there who could all be coming back for a jump-off of 4s. That's not unheard of. We had a 5-star Grand Prix in West Virginia last year. There's a big Grand Prix in Greenwich, Connecticut last year that came to a jump-off of 4s. So again, a rider we've seen in a lot of our Grand Prix this season, Douglas Lindelöw. Douglas with Cheldon by Chaco Blue. He was just outside the top 5 with Casimiro in the Medium Tour Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. This horse, again, like Edu's horse, jumped clear in the first round of a jump-off class earlier this week. Didn't go then in the jump-off, just setting up for this Grand Prix. But again, caught out very early on. Now caught out twice early on with rails. It's a very big score for this horse already. See Douglas. Yeah. Well, the reverse, if he was going to carry on, that lack of forward motion, in fact, starting to go backwards, will be penalised as well. But I think it's clear that he's going to retire. I'm just going to let the horse settle. Try and put it all together for another day, but not their day today, unfortunately. Swedish Championship rider Douglas Lindelof and Kjell Don. Alberto Marquez Galabades with his Riesenbeck Europeans horse Uccello Massieu by Cassini. Alberto missed out on last week's jump off in the Grand Prix by 2 time faults in the first round. Now the time, nothing like as tight here in the final this week, but still no one clear. Alberto and this horse were top 10 in the Nations Cup Grand Prix at Rotterdam last year. They represented Spain at the European Equestrian Federation Nations Cup finals. He takes quite a tight line on his way back to the Andalucía, which they're sort of then taking on a bit of an angle to soften the approach down to the water. And answers the question then of being back on the horse's hocks, having that engine really driving, and in a good canter from which to jump over that double. Just like Ellen Whittaker, clear to the A element of the Longines triple, and then it goes. The Suzuki, we haven't seen it go for a while, but the relationship between the triple bar and the Suzuki is set up very, very cleverly by Oliana Vetsani. So it's going to be 8 faults for Alberto Marquez Galabades here, and Uccello Massieu going just outside our top 10 at the moment with a pretty fast 8 in 73 seconds. So the combination that won the Equine America Grand Prix in week 3, Pedro Vinícius and Nimrod de Muse by Nabab Derev. 3-time Brazilian Olympian Pedro, career winner of the Geneva Grand Prix, the 5-star Grand Prix at Spruce Meadows. Can they replicate their week 3 success here at the Sunshine Tour? At the moment there are half a dozen or so starters left in this Longines Grand Prix final, so a clear round would be very, very valuable. And it won't be. Andalucía rail over the wall goes down on the way to the open water. So 4 faults already for Nimrod de Muse and Pedro Vinícius. The question now is, will they stay on 4, and how fast could they be on 4 if it comes down to that? Of course, the times of the first round 4 faulters will only start to matter officially if we get somebody clear with a time fault or clear inside the time, because they will take over the lead. At the moment, all of our 4 faulters are in equality of first and would jump off. But nobody here is settling in for the 4, a steady 4, thinking that there'll be a jump off. They still look down the start list, they see the names, and they think there's going to be a clear, there's going to be a jump off. 76 seconds and 4 faults for Pedro Vinícius and his Grand Prix winner here this season, Nimrod Demuse. They go into 5th place. Santiago Núñez Riva. Santiago, who's been winner of the Small Tour Grand Prix at Global Champions Madrid in the past, with his Nations Cup horse from here in Vejer last autumn, Valentino de Us by Vivaldi de Seigneur. Combination jumped well in the 5-star Nations Cup Grand Prix at Le Bourg last year. They also represented Spain at that European Equestrian Federation's Nations Cup finals. Be fantastic for Spain to take victory in this final, and the clear round would put them easily on the path. Pushes a little bit to the water, and of course the question then is to make sure that they're back in shape for this double. They answer it well, puts himself a little bit right of centre to give maybe a little bit more space back to the gate. All comes up well for him. Oh, just touches that middle rail, but it stays in place, still on the clear at the moment. Ah, the bridge goes. So 4 faults for Santiago Núñez Riva turning to the final line. Still no clears. Can he be faster than James Wilson? The time does look very good. 4 faults, 74.27. Santiago Núñez Riva is another rider pretty pleased with the 4, and it is good enough for the lead. If we get it clear, that would be the fastest of the 4 faulters, as I say at the moment. He just has to wait and see if it comes to a jump-off. His first round time doesn't matter, but he would come quite late in that jump-off, being our most recent 4 faulter. But somebody surely is going to give us a clear. Join us after the break as we continue the Longines Grand Prix final. Welcome back. What a fascinating Longines Grand Prix final we have underway here at the Sunshine Tour. 11 currently on 4 faults who would potentially be coming back for a jump-off if we do not see a clear round. James Wilson, Holly Smith, Marie Longem. Great Britain, Norway, they're the fastest 3 of them because we start to shake out by time if we do see anyone overtake and beat that 4 fault total. So a clear with time or a clear inside the 81 seconds time allowed would do, but not many left to show, just 4 remaining here at Vejer. Enrique Camaragua and Vintage by Verdi. Another one for Spain in our starting order. Qualified out of their only other Grand Prix appearance, but they have otherwise jumped throughout the Tour. It's Enrique's European Equestrian Federation and Vila Moura Portugal Nations Cup horse in 2021. Just turns back to the gate. That's been a tricky line for many. The faults have been very well spread out over Uliana Vetsani's track as well. Clear through the triple combination. This bridge has been trouble after the triple, but not for Enrique. I would have thought the relatively generous 81 seconds time allowed would have seen us have a few more clears, but he's clear the Suzuki coming on towards home. He's surely not going to have the last. He doesn't, it's clear. That changes this final completely. From 11 on 4 faults potentially coming back to jump off. Now we have 1 out in front on his own. Clear round, number one and only 3 remaining who could join them. The biggest Grand Prix jump-off we're going to have today is just 4, and Spain is in it. Enrique Camaragua and Vintage are our first clear of the Longines final. Very assured round from this combination. Look at that. You get that low angle. They look to be absolutely hard charging to the last. There we are. Of course, Santiago Núñez Riva went in as our fastest 4-faulter before. James Wilson, Holly Smith. My apologies to Santiago for that. Just moments ago, of course, giving us that fastest 4-faulter. Robert Whittaker and Evert. Evert, a former Karl Cox ride. We've seen this horse do very well in speed classes on the Global Champions Tour. Seen Robert a couple of times in Grand Prix action over the course of the 7 weeks here. Can he straight away give us clear round number 2 and guarantee us a jump-off finale? No. The butterflies goes, and he's struggling. He was well offline there. Just coming back from a deep drift to the right to get the triple combination. It came together for him, and indeed the bridge stays too. So on 4 faults coming home. Again, he just slightly goes past the center of the triple bar, and that just puts him on a tough spot on a tricky distance to the Suzuki vertical. It's 8 faults, 78.09, 8 faults for Robert Whittaker. That, unfortunately, will go down the order 20th best at the moment. Remember, we've got that 1 clear, then we've got 11 currently behind him on 4 faults, being led by Santiago Núñez Riva. Then it is James Wilson, Holly Smith. Really interesting to see that horse just go so far to the right after the butterfly fence. And a great job by Robert to bring him back online and answer the question of that triple combination line clean. So Mosito Van Het Hellehoff and Bernardo Cardoso de Resende Alves. Bernardo Alves, winner of our Grand Prix last week with this horse. 2-time Brazilian Olympian, twice Pan Am team gold medalist with Brazil as well. Just content that everything is set. Just strikes off a little bit to the left-hand side over fence 1. We actually saw this horse have that just question of line a couple of times last week, but actually really focused in then when it came to the jump off. Bernardo balancing. He's definitely using the fact that the 81 seconds time allowed is quite comfortable to just make those extra preparations, but it's slightly for naught. He might even not have a rail down, but he has very much broken the tape at the water. He does have the rail straight after down as well, which we've seen a lot do. The water really affecting how they've come and jumped that sort of terracotta pink double. So Bernardo Alves and last week's winner Mosito Van Het Hellehoff already on 8 faults, and they've had a fair go at having the B element of the triple combination down. It does stay. That goes for 12. Picks the horse up and throws it over that triple bar. So 79.21 and total of 16 jumping faults for Bernardo Alves. And Mozito van het Hellehoff here for Brazil.
79.21 seconds, this is Bernardo Cardoso, last to go.
So a tough old day here at Veja de la Frontera to decide our final Grand Prix of the 2022 Sunshine Tour. Just one clear moments ago from Enrique Camaragua and Vintage. And this is the only lady standing between him and victory in the first round. Can she jump clear and give us a jump-off finale to the 2022 Sunshine Tour? It's Penelope Leprevaux and GFE Excalibur de la Tour Vidal. Penelope, French Olympic gold medalist. She's won 5-star Grand Prix. She's been on the podium at the World Cup finals, won World Cup qualifiers. She and Excalibur have been on the podium at Longines Global Champions Tour action. Also were the winners of our Large Tour Grand Prix in week 5. Now that was the week that the Large Tour was held on Saturday. Excalibur plenty experienced with the open water. Everyone has their fingers crossed. Of course, they'd love to see a Spanish victory, but they'd love to see it decided over a jump-off as well. Penelope just pushes here on the way to this final line. The Suzuki is up. It's very fast as well. Oh, my goodness, the very back rail of the last jump on course from the last rider, Penelope Leprevaux and GFE Excalibur de la Tour Vidal, will become our 12th four-faulter. They go into 8th best. But it is actually going to be a first-round victory in the Longines Grand Prix final. And that is for Enrique Camaragua. Almost foot perfect, perhaps up until the very last step for Penelope Leprevaux and GFE Excalibur de la Tour Vidal, which would have given us a head-to-head jump-off with Penelope going second, but it wasn't to be. There's the rail that came down, and here now are our top few. It's a 1-2 for Spain as well, with Enrique Camaragua taking the win, Santiago Núñez Riva with the fastest four-faulter taking second place for Spain as well, and receiving that wonderful Longines timepiece as winner of the Longines Sunshine Tour Grand Prix final.
Esta prueba es el sueño de una vida y sobre todo el primero que tengo que dar las gracias.
This competition, it's the dream of a lifetime, and I have to thank first of all my horse. He's fought like a titan. He carried me to the clear, and there were no other clears. I'd like to thank my team, the Spanish team, the coach. I get a little work on what has really made me so excited about winning this competition. It's been wonderful, the number of people who've come here and supported us at Montevideo. It's like my second home, a favorite site and a contest like no other. Well, a contest like no other indeed. The Sunshine Tour for 2022 wraps up with victory for the home side in the Longines Grand Prix final. Plenty more action coming up across 22. Join us for it all.